You got your white anglets?
Yeah, I can get that.
It's full of pellets that are in fast loaders.
Starting in verse 18. We're told that Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee. He saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishing. Matthew 4:18. These bifocals.
You nervous before the camera here?
You guys are on your toes. I appreciate that. Okay, now that I know that y'all are with me, do we need to pray again? So as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said. I will make you fishers of men. And at once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. And they were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. And Jesus called them. And immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Question that I'd like to ask, and if you guys can help me with this, share with me, Jesus here has called his disciples. What does it mean to be called, or to have been called by Jesus? Anyone? What's your understanding of being called?
Well, Gary, what I forget is that I think we're all called. I like to think of calling being somebody that's supposed to be a preacher or a missionary or music minister or something like that. But I don't understand this. But I think that we're all called to have our particular place. I don't think that being a pastor like Brother Darrell is any more important than somebody that is dumping garbage.
I think that's
trash collector, because that trash collector has a ministry, a different kind of ministry, but he's got certain people that he talks to that nobody else is going to talk to. I don't think we're all called.
I think, does everyone pretty much agree with that? Does anyone disagree with that? That we're all called? Okay, along those lines, somebody else got another thought?
I thought that Jesus didn't talk to a multitude and said, anybody that would like to follow me, come. He went specifically to those people in the very first level. And I feel that he's come to me, and I think he comes to each one of us on a personal level. He doesn't just throw it out there. Thank goodness he doesn't throw his nets and we're part of the fish that he drags in. He comes to us individually. And I thought that's what strikes me, that he went to each one and called personally.
Do you think we have a choice of whether or not to accept that call, or a choice to not accept that call?
We forget that that's the salvation experience, but it's not just the calling, it's a calling. Like there's something else that follows this. It's not just you get to go to heaven and be with God. And that's what a lot of us think. A lot of us think that's all there is to it. But a calling signifies, I have something that I need you to do for me.
I think it's an observation also. Because what he did, he said to the men, I'll make you fishers of men. And then if everybody would see what these other men were doing with Jesus, say, hey, maybe I can help in the same, be truth, to their people, which they're trying to learn also, or what they would like to learn. And so it is built up. That's how
I look at it.
He referred to it in their own profession, just like we all have a profession, and we can work within our profession to reach the people within our profession. He used their profession to help them understand what he was trying to do. And I think that shows the same thing about we're all involved in this, And we don't have to be a missionary, quote unquote, from Cascade Baptist, quote unquote, going to a mission field, quote unquote, like the sign over there says, you're entering a mission field when you go out of the parking lot. So, and we affect that through our everyday life.
I think a calling is more than just what, like a job or something. That's not a calling. It's basically if you say it's something that's so much a part of me that I can't lay it down. In other words, basically you say it becomes so ingrained in you. In other words, preachers we often think of as having a calling. If that preacher is so ingrained that every opportunity he gets, that he's out there evangelizing, that's a calling. If he's such that he's a business manager and not a fully called, it's completely two different things.
Missing the target.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, it's like the difference between a gift of the Holy Spirit that He gives us when we're saved and a talent or an ability that we have and we cultivate. We use for our own purposes.
I think that if we all understand that, and if we're open to God's calling, and we are obedient, we talked about that obedience thing quite a bit over the last couple of years or so, that He will honor that. Now, taking that one step further, He does call those into the ministry, into the full-time ministry. You agree with that? And Tim has had that call. Is that right, Tim? Can you share with us when you got that calling, or about that calling, or can you just, so we can better understand what that is there? And we just not blind on the road to Dallas?
Had a heat stroke.
Wasn't a calling. Sorry. Yeah, happened all of it.
I think, I assume first of all, and I say natural abilities, I know that God given. I assume early in life what I was going to be was a band teacher. And then I desired for a long time to be a minister of music, for a long, long time. Had a lot of part-time churches and part-time jobs. Just never happened. I eventually got a call to a church, full-time music and youth. At the same time, I got a call to another church for music and education. Now I had a problem. I really had a third choice, which was to stay where I was and continue serving part-time. I chose music and youth, and it was an interesting situation in that where we went, there was a man already doing part-time music. He was in the Air Force, and we were told that could he continue in that for another 6 months because he was going to be transferred. And so just come as youth pastor and then take over music. And I said, sure, sounds good to me. I wasn't there a month, and it was clear to me that the youth was to be my emphasis. I was there a month, and I went, this is it. This is it. I can also look back and see in both Susan's and my life, with her before she was out of high school, and me right after that, we have both been involved with children and youth our entire life since high school. We've either been teaching Sunday schools or children's choir or RAs, GAs, softball teams, something. So we didn't see that youth connection up to those years, though it's just something we like to do. I was in full-time ministry for only about 3 years because another desire in our life had always been for more children. We tried to adopt, we tried to do foster care, and it just never worked in the several places we were. On the other hand, the Lord, the very first church we went to, full-time, there were some people there that had been in foster care for 17 years. Said, well, you just go down there to the Baptist home and fill out the application, you're going to get a kid. We were there 5 months and got our first foster kid. And so, serving in 2 different churches, with youth and music, and working with kids in foster care, the social workers down at the children's home said, we need someone here on campus to work with teenagers. Somebody wants to work with the teenagers. And the ones that are here, they're older folks, and they just want to sit on campus, and, you know, they don't want to go to ball games and band, and take kids to work and teach them to drive. And so we said we'd pray about it. I prayed about it. Susan packed her bags. Now, I also tried to seek what I thought was wise counsel. About a month before we moved to the children's home, we decided we was going to go. But I went on the youth ministers retreat in Colorado, and I was going to share with them, you know, what the Lord was calling me to. They didn't encourage me at all. Oh no, I know somebody who did that, and you won't like it. But I just really had to say, gosh, where'd that come from? I just had to discount it, and I went on ahead anyway. And I still feel I'm in full-time youth work. Full-time youth work. I like having the day-to-day, more intimate contact. And really, part of my frustration was with the parents in the church also. I really got tired of having the kids only 3 to 5 weeks, 3 to 5 hours out of the week, and trying to build them up, encourage them in the Lord, and then send them back home. And the parents, well, you know, get it right. That's pretty discouraging. I also figured out finally that being a youth pastor full-time is really being a parent pastor, because you've got a tough road to hoe unless you give parents encouraging their kids and being active in their lives. So that's sort of how we got called to ministry, and like I say, we're still ministering. And
So God called and you followed.
yep.
Okay. Let's look at some other passages here of some guys that maybe got called, and just kind of follow that up with a little bit and see how they, what their purpose for being called was. We're going to be having dinner with them, and they share a little bit of that with us about what they do. And I didn't really understand what they did, but it was very interesting. Tim, would you and Susan just share a little bit like y'all shared with us about what you do with these young people you bring into your homes, and then how y'all serve, and how you got involved with that? Share a little bit of that with us, if you would.
Well, I think, unlike Tim, you know, I was raised to be a missionary in Brazil, and my job would be to teach nutrition and health and early childhood type things. That's what I was raised to do, and it was kind of a shock. You know, I guess my dad, by the time I got into high school and graduated, realized that, you know, I had a mind of my own, and that wasn't going to happen. But still, even going to college, that was still the plan, that's where I would go, and I would serve the Lord, because there was never any doubt. I accepted the Lord early on, but by about junior high, there was never any doubt in my mind that God wanted me to work with kids in some capacity. And teaching just seemed a real natural thing, you know, to me. When Tim and I got married and then went to the children's home, we were kind of disillusioned in the fact that when you are dealing with children, you know, you do still have to deal with the parents, but yet we were forced to raise them behind walls. And kids don't grow up behind walls. They don't have the networking system to make them complete when they go out on their own. And so what we saw was, we were raising them, they were doing well and flourishing and everything, and they would leave, and within 6 months they would be cratered, and there would be nobody there to help pick them up and move them on. We kind of lived with that for a while, and a long time. And then when we were at Buckner, I guess we were missing it. And sometimes this is when, you know, you're either called or you're clubbed over the head. That, you know, God says, I've been telling you this from the beginning, and you're dragging your feet. And I wanted to say, but it's Buckner. You know, we've asked every year we've been here, put us out in the community, put us out in the community. And we promised to do this, and we never would. And the Lord just impressed upon us about the same time that we're going to have to leave that comfort zone, and we're just going to have to go. And that was, you know, those kind of decisions to me are not the hard ones. It's the liver decisions that are the hard things to trust God on. But this one, if God said go, I'm gone. You
you know, and we called a realtor, and 1 week later, we looked at 11 houses, and one day, and the 10th house we looked at, it met every criteria we had to have. We were, unfortunately, one of the criteria wasn't a bigger yard, because that's been a bummer, but the house was perfect. You know, literally, the Lord moved through congressmen and everything else for us to get it. We had to go all the way to Washington to get the IRS to release the house for us to have. And, you know, our timing was April 1st, but, you know, God's timing was April 4th. And we met her right in there, April 4th, and it all worked out. And it was really great. And what we've been able to see is that what God had told Tim way back in 1980 when he said he's dealing with the parents and they would complain about, well, we can't start teaching our kids godly principles now. They're teenagers, they won't listen, it doesn't work. Well, your kid's not a teenager yet, you don't know. You're just young, wait till you get older, it'll pass. You know, these kind of things. God's allowed him to put into practice what he was preaching all those years, and it's still working 18 years later. And it works so much better when you're out in the community. And we've seen kids that have done very well. Every kid that has left our home, either under good circumstances or even bad, because we've had a couple of them that have been runaways, they have been able to network enough in the community and all that they're all doing well. We get calls back from these kiddos and that'll say, I know you told me I'm supposed to talk to so-and-so when I get, you know, for services, or who is it that I get to call? You know, these kind of things. And so they're learning and they're on their own. It was really hard when we originally bought the house to work with kids. Our thought was that would be our house we'd go to on our day off, and the kids that left could use that house because we found out at a Christmas time when kids were kicked out of the college dorm after I had raised those little buggers for 4 years. Buckner said we couldn't help them. And it was against policy, and we just, there was no place for them to sleep, and I was on the phone going berserk trying to find these 3 or 4 kids a place to be, and I thought, this is not right. And that was kind of a deciding factor in the Lord saying, you're not paying attention, you need to get on the stick.
Now you guys have Brian, who's your biological son, and then you have adopted Kenny, who's a special needs child. Now, tell us how you go about getting additional children in your home. And how many children do you have in your home at a time?
And also go through the rating, what you're telling us about. What do you call, and the types of kids that you get.
Yeah. We get what we call the higher end of care, the high level kids. Youth for Tomorrow has a rating system. Level 1 is kind of like our son, Brian, could be raised by rocks. They're there, they're going to do their own thing. Level 2 is got to have some supervision. Level 3 is real obstinate and like a little booger. Level 4 kiddos are these kids that are going to have some real emotional issues. They're going to be these kids that if they were in school, they'd be seriously emotional at the school, which means that they're not going to attend class all the time. They're not going to go to work when they're supposed to. They're going to stand up and say, excuse me, I think not. You know, and they're going to probably do a lot of that. They're going to be your typical teenager in the neighborhood. They're going to have some physical aggression when they get angry. And there's a lot of anger in these kiddos because a lot of the kids come from homes that have been extremely abusive. Almost all of them verbally, emotionally, and physically, and a good amount sexually abusive as well. Either by parents or by friends or that sort of thing. We have our license when we left Buckner because when we even said we were leaving, I still guess in the back of my mind that they would go ahead then and say, all right. But they said, no, you know, we're not going out into the community. We want to do this. And so the Lord just really happened to run Lena Pope by us at the time, and they were doing community-based homes. They'd never done one in Dallas, but we went out there and they said, yes, we want you very much to work for us. And we said, I'm not moving to Fort Worth because Kenny Allen's getting exactly what he needs here in Dallas, and I am not starting over again. And they wanted this badly enough that they allowed us. We're their only outhouse. Outside of Tarrant County, there's us in Dallas. And sometimes that makes them as a thorn in their sides. And you know, they've been very gracious to work through some things with us. We're actually licensed to have 6 kids besides Kenny in our house. Our house is huge, and those of you who've seen it No, there's like 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and almost 3,000 square feet. And we were able to look in and snap that up for nothing compared to what the market is being paid for now, and that's nothing but the Lord. That house sat empty for 5 years. And if I look back and think about it, that's about how long we drove it, realistically, for 5 years. And so I look at it as the Lord had the house just sitting, waiting for us.
Now, is this something you guys, you do this during the week, right? What do you do on the weekend? So how long has it been since you guys have just got away together, just as a matter of information?
How long? May of April.
Be more precise, can you?
If I take a minute, I may be able to tell you. And the time, yeah. It was a hard deal because we went to, we stayed with my aunt in St. Louis, and we went for a week right before we started taking all the kids in. And if my aunt said, you can stay here for free, no anything, I wouldn't expect the charges anyway. But the deal was we couldn't talk about kids and we couldn't talk about church. We could only talk like normal human beings. And I was like, to tell you the truth, it was one of the most miserable weeks I've ever spent in my life. I loved my time with him, but it was horrendous because everything we saw, we'd go, so-and-so would really like to see this. Oh man, we need to get one of these and take it home to so-and-so. You know, this kind of thing. So it was really hard. And I guess it was then that I realized that, you know, kids are our life. We get up in the morning with kids and we go to bed at night with kids. And it's,
Don't you ever need a break?
well, there are days that we feel like but it's really, these are kids that have been bounced a whole lot through the system because, you know, they punch holes in walls. They slam doors so hard that they knock them off of the frame, not just the frame out, but off the foundation. These are kids that, if you're lucky, don't punch each other. You know, Tim and I have actually been hit. I've had my nose cracked once and my glasses broken, and Tim's gotten punched a couple of times. But these are the kids that need you the most because they're used to striking out, and it's okay because somebody's going to just push them down the road and they can go live someplace else. At our house, we just charge them to fix the damage and pay for the doctor bill, and we go on because that's what people do. And so they don't have that feeling of family. And at our house, I tell them there's 2 ways you can, well, really 3. If your caseworker moves you know, I don't have anything to say about that. But you either graduate or you die. That's the only 2 ways. You graduate, we move you out into college or into the community, or, you know, you die, and then the client moves you out. But they are a good bunch of kids. They've had some real rough and rocky stuff, and they don't always do what I want them to do. And they almost always embarrass us in public or themselves and each other. But we have been just truly, truly blessed that, you know, they stay connected.
Well, I think this whole class has been touched by y'all's ministry, what you do, and many in this class have been touched by y'all's just, you know, helping in many different ways. And this class, which is, you know, nothing but an extension of the body, you know, we're all part of the body, and we're supposed to be there for each other, and you guys have been there for us. And as a class, Sharon has something she'd like to share with you. Sharon's partner. We've kind of worked out a little deal here where you guys get away for a few days. Have you guys been to San Diego in a while?
No.
We were trying to find a red Jeep. We couldn't find one.
Well, let me say this, that Sherry has worked real hard trying to work a little deal out here. And I think probably one of the first questions you might have is, we can't go, can you? Can you guys get away for a few days if we can if we can get you to San Diego, get you some airplane tickets? Can y'all get away? Is there any problem with that?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we got a little problem there. I think, Sherry, have we been able to deal with that? How have we been able to deal with that?
Well, we've been able to deal with it except for this morning. So Tim, when we get through here, you've got to call your boss. She is somewhere trying to get here. Everybody is out looking for her. So we don't know where Marjorie is, okay? And I'll just share with you, when I called Tim one night for something, I don't know, kind of dumb, but anyway, I got Susan's mom's number, and I called Susan's mom. And she told me that we had to provide certified child care. And so Marjorie wanted to be here and give this to you, but she's not here. So I'll give it to you.
This class has made arrangements for this to be dealt with. And Bonnie, I think you have something you'd like to share with them. I know that when you get out there, y'all go ahead and let them pass this on to them. And Bonnie has something here. Which,
From your brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yeah, we will.
thank you, Sharon.
And this is our class, but Marjorie told me to give it to you, and she has a letter in there.
And Tim, when you get out there, you're probably going to need a little something to kind of take Ms. Rogers out to dinner, and she might even, you might need something to kind of take her to the zoo or something like that. Sharon said with you there.
Hey, Tim, Miramar's not too far. You can get on the plane out there.
We love you guys, and I want y'all to be able to do what I would love to do, and that is shop. Shopping money.
Okay, another little detail that you might find troubling is what to do with Kenny. And Kenny has got choices, but one of Kenny's choices, Ms. Bonnie has a deal here, is to go and stay with Grandma and Grandpa.
I don't know exactly what it says. I started to read it. Sherry said I should read it, but I don't know what it said. I started to open it and read it, but you can read it. It says to the effect that she will take care of Kenny, or he can stay with the provider, whichever. And we love you.
I think Joe has a little material here he'd like to share with you that, just in case you want to kind of get a little direction when you go that way, what's going on. But for y'all's information, you're going to be leaving this Friday.
So actually,
coming back Monday.
You need to start planning. You need to start planning from the time that you leave, from the time that you get there, and use the time wisely, and appreciate the time that you're away. So if you're seen as a vacation planning guy, use them, you will need them. Thank you.
And when we started this little project, the outpouring has been so overwhelming that we couldn't stop with this. So I think Sarah has something else to share with you guys that we'd like to
This one's going to go to Tim, but this is for both of you. When you get back, to handle some emergencies or something.
Watermelon.
Car repairs. Car repairs, Tim. Car repairs.
What do you want to tell us, Susan?
I'm just telling you this, I cannot I told Mom, yes, I was complaining during camp, because she called to make sure I'd gotten back okay, because I was drunk. And I said, oh, well, yeah, I've been spending my day with repair people. That's just what I want to do. Last year when Kim went to camp, it was $1,800 for a whole new air conditioner. 2 days after we left, the air conditioner system out. This year, it was the washer, the dryer, the air conditioner clogged, the van quit working, and I said, I'm quit. June and 1st of July happened. And I looked at that, and we just kind of waited and let it through. Again, and I thought, Lord, it must just mean I'm supposed to have kids. No money, just kids. Well, Susan, something has been going on with you guys every single year. You're right. When we first met years ago, I believe there were several fires in your kitchen, or remember that?
No more jiffy pop.
We had that fire in our kitchen. This is how I know that we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's exactly right. Satan worked so hard on our house and our stuff, and I just say, give it your best shot. We're going to move on. But it's a really good lesson for the kids too to see that we're not going to be kicked out in the street. It's going to work. It may mean that we're all gonna be embarrassed and cram into one vehicle for a change, and it ain't gonna be the way.
Right to hoopty.
Well, this class loves you guys. We,
I can't believe y'all
part
did
of our,
this, 'cause we didn't know.
well, it was pretty tough keeping us a secret, but Sherry was pretty wise. These are non-refundable tickets. You've got
All right.
They are two-way, right? Round trip.
This brings a great deal of
Take your
pleasure.
relays with you, enjoy the walk down
I think there might be some individuals that might just like to take a minute, and there's probably several of you, so maybe it won't take a long time, but if we could just take some short testimonies to say thank you to Tim and Susan for how they've helped or influenced your lives, just take a few minutes and do that.
Well, I'll start off. I don't know if I can get through this without crying. I'm already crying. Thank you, Joe. It's okay. All of you know about Jennifer and all the problems we've had with Jennifer. Give me a minute. Last year I shared with Susan, beginning of the school year, that we were having some problems with the school in the Tumblr Bass Street. And just to kind of make this short, without me knowing it, Susan went out to school and talked to everybody out there. She never even said anything. We kind of missed each other several times in Sunday school. And she never said anything to me. And so when I finally got around to calling school and complaining, it was like, oh yes, Miss Thompson, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And I thought, gee, I have a lot of power, you know. And then when I got back finally and talked to Susan and discovered she had been out there and paved the road for me. That's how she's worked for us. It was great for Jennifer.
How it works,
Well, I'd like to say something too. All of us that I know of all of us have children, and I don't know of any more vulnerable part of life is our children and how we love them and how we struggle and how we hurt when they hurt and how much we want for our children. So when they struggle, it just tears your heart. And when someone comes along and has the ability to take some of that hurt away, I think the Rogers and the Lord have taken a lot from a pain away from us. Greg was struggling, and we had tried so many things. And, you know, there's Susan, as busy as she is, and Tim as busy as he is. And what does she do? She comes within, I think, not even 24 hours notice, and out to the high school. We meet not once, but twice. And more times than that, we went to their home, and their expertise and their calmness and their tenacity and their terriers for children. And I cannot imagine what their crown in heaven must look like. But I know one of them has Greg's name on it, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because as parents we tell our children, and I think they get overloaded, but when they hear something from a third person who is aware, and children pick up on that, and they go, oh, really? Okay. And the parents go, have I not been saying that? That you need an advocate, a strong advocate. And I cannot imagine a greater service than for our children. And I want to thank you very, very much.
I just see this definitely a calling too. What you did with Scott and Sherry when the incident happened there at school was invaluable. I couldn't express it enough. Thanks.
Yuri had asked me to talk about this, and I said, well, I'll be out waiting on Marjorie, but Marjorie's not here. Anyway, and I really do think, what does she drive? Does she drive a red one?
It looks great.
Oh, no, well, it wasn't her. Because I drove this lady around.
around the parking
That's a new ministry.
She'll probably never go to church again. Somewhere I had found out what Susan did. I don't know, kind of forgot it, and actually was so crazy that I said, and you probably heard this, Susan, my kids don't need you, they have me. I can jump up and down and just do all kinds of stuff, and I did. However, Scott was assaulted at school on February 2nd, and when they called me and I went up there and got him, and we go to the emergency room, and then we get chewed out by the doctors, and you know. I am just going crazy, but there was, the police department was absolutely wonderful. They came to our house, they fell apart in our living room when they saw Scott. When we get downtown and we're having to work with the detective, she told me, I said, I'm asking everybody, what do we do? We really did not know what to do. And we were saying, what do we do, what do we do? And this Detective Crawford downtown was an absolutely wonderful person. She said, I said, what do you think we should do? She called to talk to Scott. Scott was already asleep. So, because, you know, parents don't count in a case like this. They want to talk to the victim. And she said, one thing I would do, and she said, you need to have a meeting. She said, when I told her what happened, told her that Scott was at a competition and he wasn't even in the community on Saturday, she said, you need to have a meeting. You need to get the principal there. You need to get your YAC officers there. I didn't know what they were. You know, she said, you need to do all of this. And she said, if you can find a child advocate who can meet with you, she said, you meet with them tomorrow. So, you know, I did think about 2:30 in the morning, I thought about Susan. But I didn't call.
You're so glad.
Until 6:30. I told her what I wanted, and she said, oh, I can be there at 2:30 or da-da-da-da-da. She said, you get it set up. But she told me, she said, don't necessarily tell them I'm coming. So, okay, I'm going through da-da-da-da-da. You know, I call, and I'm very forceful up at the school, tell the principal is at a meeting, and I said, when will she be back? I said, we have got to have, and I will da-da-da-da-da here. And I said, I'm saying this one time, and everybody must be there. And I said, Detective Crawford told me to do it. So she kind of rearranged her schedule and so forth. But anyway, the deal was, if Susan could not come, Tim was going to go. But Susan said, I'll try to be there. Well, it so happened that Susan could be there. When we walked in that room at Brian Adams, it was the principal's office, when we walked into that room, I have laughed about this a million times. She didn't say, hi, Mrs. Dillender, how are you? How is Scott? The very first words out of that principal's mouth was, Susan, I didn't know you were coming. The very first words out of her. And we sat there, and I have this list that Detective Crawford has told me to go through, and we're doing our stuff, and the meeting's getting ready to come to an end, and I say, oh, just a minute, I've got to have my list, and I'm checking things off, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. And, you know, she told me to ask several questions. Well, they told me the answers, I just kind of wrote them down. But, you know, Susan heard things I didn't hear. When I said, have you had trouble with this kid before? They said, not here. Well, I heard no. Susan heard here. You know? So she goes back and she does her research. Well, Detective Crawford tells me all this other stuff I need to do. So not knowing what I'm doing, I'm going through doing it, you know, checking it off, getting it done. And, you know, every once in a while I would run on the stump and I would call Susan, and I did try to call her at work. I tried not to call her at home about this, but I know I did. I tried to call her at work, and I sent her all these volumes of documentation that Detective Crawford told me to do, and so forth and so on. But I did send them to her work. And, you know, I would say, Susan, what are we going to do about this? What can I do about this? She would say, I've already talked to the administration. I've already talked to the administration. That is just absolutely wonderful to have it done before you're having to do it. So I can't do bottom line. And I always appreciate Sharon saying her testimony in here that Sunday morning talking about how much Susan helped her. Because if Sharon had not done that, I guarantee you, I would have never thought to do it.
It's the way the body works. There. Somebody else?
Well, I don't have anything like that, but I do. When my daughter was a camp, she came home and stayed. Her name's Ashley, and she said, "Do you know Tim Andre?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, the guy that plays the thing." And I'm like,
The big guitar.
She's like, "Mom, it's just so awesome." She said, "I just felt when I was around him." She said, I just knew the Lord was there. And she was just, she was just glowing because she had experience. You know, and she said, "In choir," she said, "He helped me so much." She said, "He's just always there." And then she got to know some of your children at camp, and she was just blown away by what kids, how they are and what y'all done for them. She just was, she just can't believe that people like this are like this. But she was so, she's just the neatest, awesome person I've ever met.
You know, that was one thing that Marcia said. When I called her, found out who I had to call, and the day I called out there, Tim was out at Lena Post. So I asked the receptionist, I said, "Who is Tim's boss?" And she told me Marjorie Foster, and I said, "Is Tim by chance there?" She said, "He's sitting right here." I said, "This is a surprise." I said, "Please." I said, "I need to talk to his boss." So I talked to his boss, told her who I was, what the class was wanting to do. Her first statement was, "Nobody deserves it more." Now, she has been on vacation this past week, so I don't know what, it was kind of going to be kind of iffy anyway, okay? Even though her first thing was she wanted to come, but then she was going on vacation, and, so I just don't know. I'm not too worried about her, but I would kind of like to know. She said that she was so grateful to this church for accepting this gift. She said, "We're so thankful." So, for the parents that's done that, she said, "We're so thankful for," I said, "We know your kids." I said, "I don't know them, but I know that they are so awesome." She said, "We're so thankful."
Is there any chance we can move the airline tickets up to Thursday?
Anybody else?
I just want to say that we appreciate you, all the work that you do. Of course, I love all the kids. They're really sweet kids.
We say thank you so much. We appreciate you. Y'all have welcomed us here to Cass if you allow us to be a part, not wanting to be pushy, and just let the Lord open doors to everybody for us to do something. Again, we just thank you for your comfort and your ministry, prayers. It's been very appreciated.
The one thing that I appreciate the most is, I feel so greedy when we have prayer requests, because it seems like there's always something going on at the Rogers house. But, I know that y'all pray for us, and we can feel those prayers, and we can see how God's, working and answering those prayers. And it is a tremendous feeling to me as a mom to be able to say to my kids, this is coming about because I know people. And this comes by prayer. These things just don't happen, and I could be dead on stuff that's gone on in the house where God is not only His work through y'all's prayers, being able to work out all the little intricate details that have to go on. Because it's not, easy shuffling 9 schedules and thank God for Tim. He is the person that holds us together literally. I was Tim this weekend, and that's a rough job. I spent my whole day in the truck, and I was like, when I got out, I didn't even want to sit down on the couch. I wanted to just convert. And it was like about 1 o'clock. And I started at 2 o'clock that afternoon when I took off work early so that they could leave for our nephew's wedding. But that was unreal, and I think God lets me do that every now and then to be able to appreciate Tim, because he does a lot, allows me to be able to run around and help the rest of the community. If it wasn't for Tim, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I think that God's given him an extra measure of grace and patience with all the kids, and especially for him to be able to hold down the fort a lot of times by himself.
That's why we wanted to send Tim with you.
Would y'all come up here to these two front chairs, and can we gather around you guys and pray for you and continue more room up here? And I'd like to ask Typo if he'll do some prayer for you guys. And if you want to gather around and just place your hands on them, and I failed to mention no work does. We've got some refreshments still left, so we've got a few minutes to visit a little bit.